board where Seth and Ed are just about ready to go. And let's introduce the folks at home to co-commentator Jared Cappel. He'll be joining me for the afternoon session today and tomorrow. Jared, welcome to the set.
I'm so glad to be here, and especially to watch a game with such great players here. You mentioned how everyone loves Seth. He's the only player I know to have his own fan club, so that certainly bodes well for his great personality. And I don't know much about Ed, but I'm really excited to see the way he plays. He has a very high rating. I think he might even direct some tournaments down in California. So this should be a great one.
Yeah, scouting report, a little bit unclear for me as well on Ed, other than I know I've played him once or twice, and he seems to be just a great guy, always in high spirits, always very chipper, win, lose, or draw. So two wonderful folks here, and hoping for a wonderful game of Scrabble as well. Let's go ahead and cut over to the game. Let's let these guys get them unsquared. Let's play some Scrabble from South Bend, Indiana.
Absolutely. And just to talk a bit more about the standings, I'm seeing the cream really begin to rise to the crop here. We had 6 players rated at over 2,000 as the event began once Joey Malik had to drop out due to flight problems. And 3 of those players are in the top 6 right now. So Mac, Joey, and Ian all right there in contention, with Ori and Noah, the other 2 players over 2,000, sort of nipping on their heels. And really happy to see the one woman in the field, Chloe Fatsis, sitting in 5th place. So lots of really exciting performances by our top players here.
Lots of exciting starts to the tournament so far. Perhaps the one notable NWL start that is notable for the other reason is the start of Jackson Smiley. Jackson sits at 4-7 through the first 11 rounds of play. Jackson, the winner of each of the last 2 Word Cups, winning a $10,000 purse in each of those. But 4-7 the start for Jackson. He's the only, I think, obvious contender who seems to be dropping out of contention early on, but never count out Jackson Smiley or any of the brilliant players seated near the top of this field. We're getting the tiles in the bag. If you've never tuned into a Scrabble stream before, Scrabble players will put the tiles in squares 5x5 to verify that all 100 of the tiles with that set are indeed still there. Nobody went wandering off, slipped into a pocket, fell under the board. It's common courtesy to set your board up that way just to verify to whoever's going to play on the equipment next. All 100 tiles are there. And hey, if you've never seen Scrabble streamed on the internet before, welcome and buckle up, because this is just day 2 of the 5-day North American Championship. It's going to be a lot of fun here.
It sure will. I see the tiles are all in the bag. They're just going to do a bit more writing on their score sheet, and we are going to begin in just a moment here.
So Ed to play first, Seth to try to counter his opening play. Going second, a small disadvantage in Scrabble, about 56 and 44% to win for first and second, respectively. It looks like we're doing some announcements and people getting some much-deserved rounds of applause right now. So we want to be respectful to the folks who do so much for Scrabble every year. They always get recognized at the Nationals, and it's very important, I think, that we let everybody get their applause before beginning play.
Yeah, you can see Josh Greenway walking there in the background. He's probably the one making the announcements. He does so much for the Scrabble community. If you want to go to any of his events or just learn more about Scrabble, check out letsplayscrabble.com. Today, the event is run by NASPA, the Scrabble Players Championship. So lots of good people involved in that organization, like Art Moore and Judy Cole. A few others I'm sure I'm forgetting, but Matt, maybe you could help me out there.
Yeah, I saw directing a division at Nationals for the first time is the great Lila Crotty. She says she's transitioned away from playing over the board to trying to give back just a little bit more. And if you haven't assisted with the Nationals, it's a very rewarding position. None of the stress that comes with playing the games, but all of the socializing, the after-hours events, the fun that you still get to have. And NASPA pays for a substantial chunk of your bill. I think they put you up in the room for free for the entirety of the tournament if you volunteer. Always looking for more folks to volunteer to Nationals, and huge kudos to every single person who volunteers their time and energy to put something like this together. Really does take a village. And we're super thankful, everybody watching this, everybody playing in this, for that effort, especially to Art Moore, Judy Cole, John Chu, and the people at NASPA who organized this stuff from the top. Lots of work. We appreciate it.
So Matt, you mentioned the stress not being present when you're directing. What about when you're commentating? Do you find this to be stressful, or is it very relaxing for you?
In a way, it's stressful because 1,000 things are all happening at once. I'm quackling the game. I'm monitoring chat. I'm trying to chat with our production team, figure out what's going on, deal with dogs who are misbehaving. So in that way, it's a little bit stressful, but I love what I do because I don't know. When you play at a 2,000 level for a little bit, and I think it was a fluke that I even made it that high, you set certain expectations for yourself. And when you consistently disappoint yourself over the board by not studying, by being rusty, by getting in your own head and making mistakes, to me, it was an emotional headache trying to play and perform at a high level. I have a lot more fun in the booth, and I like to tell myself that I'm trying to rebuild the Scrabble world in this capacity. So I love what I do here. I wouldn't give it up. But let's focus on the game ABEHIMW, the opening rack for Ed. Jared, what are your initial thoughts on this one?
Well, the opening turn is always so interesting to me because it really can show a style of how players want to play. Do they want to play a bit longer, or are they trying to play a bit shorter, maybe going defensively? When playing against a player like Seth, you know he knows a lot of words. He likes those big open boards. So my typical play of trying to play against someone like that would be to play a bit shorter.
Yeah, trying to play shorter. I think the MO against Seth here, he does play Scrabble with a lot of flash in that he knows a lot of words. He's a great unscrambler and a word finder. And when you have people with a great word knowledge, it's generally a good idea to keep boards tight so they can't play all the cool words they know. So that perhaps how you want to approach the game against Seth. That would certainly be my game plan if I'm sitting down against him. Ed's game plan is to open with Whim, WHIM. This, the more conservative of his two openings. The other reasonable play on this first turn was Bimah, BIMAH. That's going to lead to a more open board, whereas Whim a little bit more of a control play. So Ed showing us who he wants to be as a player with that opening move of Whim. And Seth to respond. He was looking for an E to hit Fatigued, does not find his E, and instead finds a tough turn on his first move, ADFGITU. To me, I think we're going to see Fug underneath Whim, If and Moo holding ADIT. But you see something else here, Jared?
No, that's the first play I saw. When you're looking at racks here, you really want to look at the tiles you don't want to keep going forward. And the tiles on his rack you don't want to keep are the F, U, and the G. So it just seems like a very natural move, and he doesn't spend too much time here putting it on the board.
Yeah, this just feels so standard. There aren't many options. So take the three worst letters on your rack and put them down next to each other. 18 points, about all Seth is able to do out of that yucky first rack. He's done it well. And AABEERU, the rack for Ed, he's now got to navigate through some vowels. But the R is going to unlock a number of plays above Whim. And I think the standout for him, Orae, AURAE, plays atop what's on the board currently. 4 overlaps for 30 points. When you got vowels like this and you can score 30, I think you have to pull the trigger on that. What say you, Jared?
Yeah, I really hope he finds this play because with the 4 overlaps, it is possible he could miss it. And it looks like maybe he has, or the AER leave is quite strong. So maybe he's just going with a different approach here. But I definitely like keeping things a bit tight. Again, I mentioned against Seth, that's the way I'd be wanting to play it. And also, if he had played Orae, the E would have slotted 2 squares above where the G is, beneath a triple letter score, and his B would have had some power there.
Yeah, so potentially opening or setting himself up and constricting the board. Instead, Ed opting into an offensive game with BEAU, leaving points on the table but being in range for a bingo next turn and opening things up. Seth has had a nice draw into ADIT. He finds ERT. 2 playable bingos now for Seth. The bread and butter retina bingos D-Train, making DUH, or Anti-Red, making AMU. D-Train 67, Anti-Red 66. And in this instance, Jared, you're going to take the extra point and avoid opening a triple-triple, right?
Yeah, it's not about the point. It's about where the plays line up on the board. So playing anti-red would slot the D into the triple triple lane. And it's just not something you'd want to do in this score. These are such baby bingos, as we call them, for Seth. He'll use a bit of time because when you have such good tiles, you can get convinced that you're missing something even better. Just you think there's going to be so many different scoring options. But eventually he's going to realize that to train's the best he's going to do. And I think it's going to come down pretty quickly.
And looking at Ed's draw, he has found the first blank. And depending on what Seth does here, his options may be a little bit different, but Ed's going to be put to the test on his word knowledge a little bit. He has just one playable bingo through the B. That's going to be his highest scoring option, but it is a tough word to pull the trigger on, just one of those weird Scrabble words that you've either seen and remember, or you look at and you think, that looks horrific. So we'll see what Ed's got to do. But there comes D train for Seth, correctly finding his best bingo here. And Ed now on turn ADEERU blank. One bingo through the B is 72. And otherwise, he looks to bingo instead through floaters at the end of D train, the N, or just the N, actually. That's all he's got.
Yeah, so he's definitely going to be looking at the B first. Players of this level will look for the higher scoring letter next to, or that's going to go through some of the multiplier squares, and the B is the only floater in space right there with some points. So he's going to have to do his due diligence here and find a bingo. And you said there's only one that uses that B.
I'll go ahead and spoil it now. Again, if you're just tuning in, we are going to be spoiling plays frequently here on the air. If you're using these as puzzles, hit that pause button and catch up later, or hit the mute button and just watch the action without having to hear me drivel. But the one playable bingo through the B and bow, the 72 pointer for Ed, is unbared. Unbeared. I saw this word get played at the Mississauga Scrabble Club over the summer, and I started shaking my head like, what a ridiculous phony. And I got challenged, and then I saw the screen turn up green. So this doesn't look like normal English, at least not in my mind, but unbared, if you know the word, is the play here.
Yeah, I hadn't found it yet. And when you said there was one through the B, I was kind of trying to figure out what it was. And to me, that looks like unbared, the past tense would be unbore. So I would have a hard time with that one too. And looking at Seth's rack, he has urbanism set up, and look where it's going to play.
It's going to play through the A, back hooking fug, and ending one space short of a double-double line. When you're 9-2 at a nationals, having your miracle start, you draw pulls like this, and then you draw the S next turn and bingo again. Like sometimes Scrabble plays itself, and wow, we'll see. That's an awesome find from Seth, and it's going to be a really fun position if we do see the unbared into urbanism sequence.
Yeah, we are already getting fireworks in this one. I think Ed will be bingoing no matter what, just because the easy bingo's through that end. If he doesn't find unbared, or if he's not confident on it, I don't see any reason for him not to bingo. I guess you could consider plays worth about 28 points or so beneath bow, reaching the triple word score to the left, but I think you just have to bingo even if you don't find unbared.
If you don't find unbared, the second best option plays through the N in D trained. The word is unearned for 68. And that is the only other bingo for Ed that scores more than 61 points. Unearned would expose a U in a triple triple line, open up a high scoring opportunity for your opponent. So that one doesn't feel great. Unbared checks all of the defensive boxes you would like to check. And if you don't see unbared and you don't want to open the triple triple after unearned, your highest scoring option is just 61. Big turn here for Ed, but I agree. I don't think you can pass any of these bingos to play something like DURE or RUDE beneath bow. You need to play the bingo now and get fresh tiles on your rack.
Yeah, if he could find a play that could score about 40, you could definitely forgo a bingo, but he just can't score enough here. So he's going to take his time, and Seth is going to continue to look for other bingos in case urbanism gets blocked. You always want to make sure to be using the time, even if you already have a play lined up. What I see a lot of lesser players than Seth do is once they see a play, then they'll just relax and just hope it stays open. And if it doesn't, then they'll start to think again. But that's really not a good use of your clock. You really want to be using your time as efficiently as you can, which you can either use to pressure your opponent so that they don't have as much time to work with, or so that you have time left over at the end of the game in order to really work through those tough end game sequences.
So we'll see how much more of Ed's clock he chooses to use here. If memory holds for me, I think Ed is a pretty slow player. I think I remember this tidbit about him. I could be entirely wrong, and if I am, somebody correct me in chat. But I think he tends to take his time in a game, so all these seconds are rather important for him. Looks like he is pulling the trigger on a bingo here, not on Baird, not unearned, but instead it looks like D nature coming down for 60 points, 60 on the nose for Ed.
He might have seen unearned and just decided the U in the triple aim was too dangerous there. If Seth had a Q or a J, he could get hit for 60 points really easily there. So he didn't necessarily miss unearned, but unbared he either didn't see or wasn't confident on.
Again, unbared, it's rather up there in probability. It's right about 3,000, but it's one of those where if you're just studying quickly, like you see that rack A, B, D, E, E, N, R, N, R, U, and it's really the only thing that makes sense. So you would just type it in and move on and not actually connect the dots on that word. And make sure that you know that you can pull the trigger on it in a situation like that. I wouldn't have been able to play it either if I were in Ed's situation. That's a tough one. D nature for 60, all he's able to muster out of the first blank. And Seth now sitting on urbanism. I think before he pulls the trigger here, he wants to make sure there's nothing else he can do to avoid opening this double line. And look
Absolutely.
at that. Ed has found the S too. Whoa.
Yeah, I told you fireworks. You could just feel it coming. Sometimes there's something in the air. And Seth, now that Ed floated an E in space, it's going to take a bit more time because that tile does look somewhat promising for potential eights. And if there was an 8 through the E, it would be so much safer than urbanism, which even though it fits really coolly on the board, it slots one square above the double letter score. And Ed could hit him back with a double for well over 100 points potentially.
I wonder what Seth is looking at here. Urbanism is definitely play if you see it. I'm wondering what he set up in Murin in this situation, or Muni now. Maybe he's unable to pull the trigger on urbanism, or maybe he's just tricked himself into thinking, oh, it doesn't quite fit with Fugs.
Yeah. I think maybe he set it up on his rack just, if I had a free A, and somehow just didn't notice that it also fit with the Fugs hook. So that is a surprising miss from Seth there. You'd think, having found urbanism, he would have looked at that A and just counted the squares. I don't think he just didn't play it because he was scared of potential retorts from Ed. I think even though you could get hit with a big S play, you still have to play it if you see it.
If you are going to miss in Scrabble, you want to find play number 2, not play number 3, not play number 4, and definitely not play number 7 or 8, as Seth has done here. Barium's played as a double through the A and D train for 52. Imbrue, I-M-B-R-U-E, plays down to the E and D train. So Seth maybe derailed by the possibility of bingoing there, maybe got in his own head about the validity of urbanism. But not just a small blunder there, a big one from him. He's been playing very solidly all tournament, but not everybody can fire on 100% every turn, even players as good as Seth. A miss there.
Yeah, and that Barium's play would have been really tough, turning Fug into Fugu, like a Japanese fish there. So whereas Fugs, I think, is a lot natural to find. As Ed plays Hoodie, keeping IES, that could bingo nicely from the M in Muni or maybe above the HO in Hoodie. So definitely has potential if you can draw a few consonants there.
Another probably imprecise play there from Ed. H-O-O-E-Y plays down alongside D nature to that bottom double letter square. That was 41 points. Did I do that right? No, I don't think that was 41. That was a lot of points. That was 35 points. or Hui's and Denatures 41. So a big sacrifice. That EIS leave can be lucrative. Now, that's a lot of points left on the table for Ed. In any case, that is the plan he has committed to. Hoodie 424 and Seth now ABIP RSS after the bingo missed last turn.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Hui would have been a better play, I think, if he found it. But if you're drawing blanks like Ed has done here, you can make up for a few mistakes. But first, let's focus on what Seth should do here. Um, he has duplicate S's, and then he has a couple clunkers on the BP. I don't think he quite hits a bingo, so it's one of those intermediate turns that really separate the top players.
Yeah, these intermediate turns are fun to watch players navigate through. I learn so much from good players and from mediocre players in these situations, what to do and what not to do. I don't think there's a clear answer to this one for Seth. There's a lot of plays that are all okay. BAPS and Denatures is kind of just the whatever, like I'm going to play off my worst tiles, I'm going to get some points. Keep IRS. That's probably what's going to end up happening here. That's what Seth is looking at, and there's nothing wrong with it. If you want to go different directions, Abyss, ABYSS, plays through the Y in Hoodie for 37. If you want to open this board up, Braise, BRAISE, plays down to the E and D train, and ISBA and Denatures, another option, ISBA, if you want to open different lines on the board. But BAPS feels very standard and straightforward. I think there's nothing wrong with this play. Anything you want to add on that turn, Jared?
Yeah, I'm totally okay with it because he still has the power with the other S in two spots. He can form ifs and he can form sh above hoodie. And then he can also pluralize words like coming from the M or beneath BAPS. So that S is very strong. So I'm totally fine with taking away that Denature's hook, playing BAPS. I wouldn't want to play something like Abyss, even though it scores really well. I just think the S is really nice on this board. And I think with the Sir leave, he's setting himself up pretty well going forward.
Yeah, I agree. Retaining an S, definitely something you want to do on a board that is very strong for S's right now. So a good decision there from Seth, and a good decision from Ed finding that other blank. CEINNS blank. He will bingo this turn, but he's got to try to maximize his opportunities here. He can score 75. I don't think it's the correct play, but he can score 75 through the A in BAPS. Otherwise, I expect 72 here from Ed. Conines, CONINES, and IFS is 72, as is Canines, CANINES. I know my two Huskies would prefer the latter over the former, though there's really not much strategic between the two. The 75 pointer, now that I've teased it, down through the A and BAPS is Nuisance, making the blank a U and backhooking Fug to make Fugu. Also opens a triple-triple, so probably the wrong play, but a really cute opportunity there as we see either Conines or Canines come down. We'll try to figure out what that blank is. Might not matter in this game, but the bingo for Ed will put him ahead.
Yeah, you can't play nuisance there. Like there's some tiles you can slot in a triple lane. The E is not one of them. It's just too easy to hit. And speaking of easy to hit, Seth has found another baby bingo here.
Yes, he has. Baby bingo for multiple reasons.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll be here all day. Ovaries, Seth's playable bingo. OVARIES plays for 69 above Hoodie, or for 68 beneath BAPS. So would you take 69 on top, 68 on the bottom, Jared?
Right now, I am mentally placing where these go on the board so I can better analyze it. The 1 point doesn't mean so much to me in this situation. I want to see where they're going to fit. I think I'd be playing it below. The V slot's above the triple letter square there, which looks nice and defensive. And after Seth makes this play, it's going to be about an even game. So I just think you don't want to give off any easy scoring spots. That would be my first inclination. What about you?
I have no idea. They both feel all right. I think given that you are down by quite a bit right now, like you're still the underdog after the bingo comes down, and you want to keep that in mind. I think playing ovaries on the bottom and leaving the line on top alone is the move. The line on top is going to be a little bit annoying to obstruct without making a sacrifice if you're trying to block it. So I'd play ovaries on bottom. Seth right on cue. God, these guys are good. Drops down ovaries as well for 68 on the bottom. I like when we see good play because it makes my job so easy. I just tell you what they're going to do, and then they do it.
Yeah, they've drawn really well, which is something we like to see, and they've played really well. So Ed now has drawn a different type of rack than we've been seeing in this game, which is like two high scoring tiles instead of all these different bingo racks we've seen. So we'll see how he's able to navigate through this different type of rack.
Yeah, different kind of rack. I think another straightforward decision though, when you have QAID on your rack and you don't have a U to go with your Q, you're pretty much always going to play Cade or its anagram KD. So that's likely what we're going to see Ed do here as well. He has to figure out where he wants to play it. He can score 31 with Cade above the O and ovaries or below the O and ovaries. So we'll have to decide if he wants to put the bottom placement and be aggressive or the top placement and be conservative. But in a tight game like this, I see no reason for the aggression. QAID on top of ovaries, I think, is what Ed should do here. What do you think, Jared?
Yeah, that looks good. The one thing I want to look for, though, is if there's the potential for any setups. When you have these big scoring tiles, if you can set up the Q or the J to score really well next turn, it's something you'd want to consider. But because you don't have the U, you really do have to play Cade unless you can find something really clever here.
Yeah, just thumbing through the options, and I don't see it, but when you're gifted with these really high scoring tiles, you want to maximize what you do with them. If you can possibly set one up and strengthen it, you really ought to. It's almost always a good idea to do it. And you know, in Ed's situation, you have to keep at least one of the J and the Q. You can't play them both off. So think about which one you're keeping and what opportunities you'll have with it next turn rather than just putting one down.
Right. So some opportunities going forward would be Joy, Joy. The JO fits nicely above BAPS. If he draws a heavy consonant there to go above AS, he could score a lot. So I like keeping the J here. The Q is just worse, and you want to play it typically, and especially when you see that the J has better spots on this board than the Q.
Okay, so Seth's tiles were face down on the table that entire time, and we saw his arm. I don't know if he was trying to avoid giving a tell or if ovaries was on hold. I have no idea, but got a good close up of Seth's forearm, and now finally get to see his rack. AEEGLOT for him. Seth trails by 25, but shouldn't be feeling much urgency yet at this stage of the game. Plenty of Scrabble yet to go. Don't have to worry about your opponent having the blanks as they've both been played. You just got to score some points and see where the game takes you in this situation if you're Seth. Seth can take action to the top quadrant of the board. GOATEE is 24. That is a good play, but it does open things quite a bit. If he wants to play a little smaller, ERGO at the bottom of the board is 18. GREE in the same spot is 21. Or if he doesn't want to open anything up at all, if he wants to keep things nice and tight, GOA, GOA plays above BAP, making OBE and AAS. So that's got to take some time here. It feels like you should have stronger options somewhere on this board, but there's not all that much. Jared, what do you think about playing goatee to the E versus keeping this board tight and controlled?
I think I might take the points here. You said he's down a bit. The points are always nice. EL is a good leave. I also really want that last S. There's only one S left really early in this game, 38 tiles to go, and yet both blanks are gone and 3 of the S's. So the S would be really powerful. And I also think the Z would be pretty nice on this board. Maybe something like Zaz and Zoea or something like that. So I could definitely support going long here. And the tiles you'd be giving, Ed, the one risk would be ING bingos to the G of goatee. But other than that, I guess the T you could also bingo too. It is worth noting that there's really only one bingo lane open on the board right now, and that would be a pretty marginal lane points-wise above Hoodie.
Yeah, bingo's not easy to come by on this board, but that one bingo line above Hoodie is just likely to sit there. And we're playing a game of who draws it first, you or me, you win the game. I hate playing those games. That's dumb. I'd rather it come down to skill. So I like what Seth did too. Just take away that line. Maybe one of us bingos through the G or the O, but at least kind of muck it up. I don't want to lose to a 7 every time. I like this. I like how it scores points. I like how it goes digging for JXZ in a game where points are going to be important, and also goes digging for an I to underlap the QAID play. Good choice by Seth. Good play.
It's also worth noting that most of the bingo tiles have been played earlier in the game. You don't want to get caught fishing when the blanks are gone, the S's are gone, R, E, T. A lot of the T's are still there, but a lot of the good tiles have been played. So it's really going to be one of those games where the scoring tiles become powerful. And look who has a lot of the scoring tiles. It's Ed with the Z, the J, and the F.
Lots of scoring tiles on Ed's rack, and he needs to choose how many of these to play now. He has the play of FROE through the R in ovaries. This would help him, or this would keep both the J and the Z in the powerful JEEZ combination. That's 33, but JEEZE plays beneath ovaries, making DOE for 46 points. That slaps the J just one space above a triple word, but Ed holds OF to play beneath it next turn. Now, with 3 unseen O's, there's a decent chance that Seth has or draws one and can hit the spot. But if Seth doesn't have an O, Ed can crush JO and OF beneath next turn all of the time. This is a really challenging turn. Fro looks good. G's looks good. Not opening the board also feels all right in this situation if you're Ed. JEEZE plays down to the E in bow as well. I have no idea what to do here. This is a very hard turn for Ed. Jared, do you have initial thoughts here?
I am also with you in that I'm still trying to figure out what he's supposed to do. Like G scores really well, puts him with a decent lead on a pretty close board, except for that G and the O up top. So I definitely see some value there, but I also sort of like holding on to them. Um, I don't know if I like Fro from him because it puts an E in the bottom line, which would be pretty easy for Seth to bingo through to or from. And he doesn't have the tiles that it's going to work out for him very often. So I sort of like playing it more defensively here with something like Zoo that he just played.
Ed opting for a lot of defense here. ZOO holding EEEFJ, the decision from Ed. This was a hard turn for sure. And I'm a little bit surprised we saw Ed play it so quickly, but maybe he thinks if I hold on to these scoring tiles, block the last ability for my opponent to bingo, I should just outscore and outrun in this game. So Zoo, 32 points, the decision from Ed, and ACELNOR, the rack for Seth.
When we're talking about plays like setups, I was looking at something like FEAZE. If he had been able to keep the F with a play like that, then he would be setting up FEH. So with those tiles, I would have also liked to see him play slower because the one I was talking about didn't work out. But there are ideas like that where if you could put an E above the H in Hoodie, then maybe you're working towards something like that. I didn't have time to go through the entire board to see where the setups could have come, but I definitely like your suggestion that he could have slowed down on that turn because I think there's a lot of different ways he could have played that one.
It's easy to tunnel vision though and think, okay, I feel like I'm in the driver's seat. I have a point lead and it's my turn and I've got most of the good tiles left on my rack. Let me just play defense. Let me just play defense. I don't want to lose to a bingo this turn, and I'm pretty sure I hold on and win as long as I survive that. So, Ed opting to play defense here. And again, you learn so much about who players are and what their instincts are watching. But ZOO is a play not a lot of folks make, though I do see why it makes a lot of sense from Ed's POV.
Yeah, I like it a lot. And we said that he has most of the good tiles, but he doesn't have the S and he doesn't have the X. If Seth, for example, had Nix, that's going to score about, I think, 49, maybe 50 points there beneath Cade. So the X and the I to underlap the Q are other tiles that we're going to have to keep our eye on here.
It's turns like the one Ed had last turn that make Scrabble so endlessly fascinating. Every play has a strength and a weakness. Every play has some pluses and some minuses. Every play opens some new stuff and blocks some different stuff, and it's all about that risk assessment of, well, how much do I gain now? How much do I give back? How much do I set myself up in the future? It's so hard to make all of these calculations in the moment, and so much needs to be said about how good these top players are that they're able to think through all of these things in 25 minutes. Sometimes it's an inexact science and you just have to go with your gut, make your gut as refined as possible. That's what Ed's gut said to do, block. And he's going to cause a little bit of frustration on this turn for Seth. Not many options out of ACELNOR, and I didn't see much to do there. Cola does about as best as anything he can do, just score some points and try to stay in this game. Seth is wisely not falling into the fishing trap. I don't think you need to start fishing and trying to bingo to win this game. I think there's enough that you can just hang on and keep scoring. I like what Cola does there. Octal, O-C-T-A-L, through the blank T and D natures. Tough to spot with that blank, but probably a slightly better way to do the same thing for Seth. But we'll shift back over to Ed into E-E-E-F-J. Two more vowels, an I and an O. It's going to make this turn another challenging one for him.
Absolutely. And I like what you said, that he didn't get caught in the fishing trap, because that's exactly what I was going to say. You want to play a bit longer there, go for the tiles like that X, and that Nick's play for 49 that I mentioned has just been drawn by Seth. So we'll see what happens. But first, Ed will hang that E into the triple lane, which makes sense because he didn't really have many other options there. It was going to be fro or free, and I like unduplicating, otherwise he would have left two E's. So now he's left J-O-I-E, and the O goes nicely with the J. So that makes a lot of sense. But after watching Seth be very methodical and a bit slower in the last turn, I'd be even more scared than I would have been on the previous turn to hang that E down on the lowest line.
Yeah, cola means, I think, Seth. Cola can mean a number of things, but it feels kind of like he's in bingo-ish territory. Putting that E out is scary, but not scoring 33 points also scary from Ed's POV. You got to keep scoring points, or you're just going to get caught. Getting caught still going to be a big concern. Seth has found the X, and we saw that he didn't notice plays through the blank T and D nature last turn. That spot is huge right now. Seth can double his X and hit a triple word through that T if he sees it, but he's tunneled straight to Nix beneath Cade. That feels like it has to be right. 49, crush that spot, but Oxter, O-X-T-E-R, or Extra, E-X-T-R-A, are both 57 for Seth. I wonder if he slows down and sees these, or if we see Nix come down quickly. Big turn for Seth.
Yeah, like you don't want to pass up those points, and he is going to miss it here, but that's okay. He's still going to score really well. Ed, though, has drawn that last S. You know, we've been naming these tiles just a turn or two before they've come up, and that S, playing something like so right beneath it, or sewn, S-E-W-N, that's going to score a ton of points. You don't necessarily have to use the S right away because you know it's the last one, but I think it's just so many points, unless there's a big idea with the J. Oh, he could also play Jow, J-O-W, and then hold it for a future turn.
Jow plays above BAPS, making OBE and WAS for 43. It holds the last S and the E to go with it, so Ed can play SE anything beneath QI next turn for another 40 or 50 points. Ed with the guaranteed 1-2 punch. That ought to be it in this one without a great draw from Seth, but there it is. He's got overread, overread, overdare might be a word. Whoa.
Overdare.
Overdare, overdeer. Those are the two words in this rack. Ignore anything else I might have said. Overdare, overdeer. Two bingos for Seth. And this is now a huge turn for Ed. Jow is a play I would have made 30 seconds ago already. It looks so awesome. But Seth with a bingo to the E, over dare. It's going to be a mammoth score. If Ed plays SEWN first, which is a sequence that makes a ton of sense, he'll block Seth's threat. If Ed plays JOW, Seth is going to bingo and knock out the SE plays beneath QI that Ed would hold on to. I think Ed's about to make the right play and get punished for it.
Yeah, this is why Scrabble's so frustrating. You could do the right thing and it costs you. He has to play Jow here. It holds the S. Seth doesn't know that Ed has the S yet. Nothing in his play has suggested that he has it yet. He has to play Jow. It scores so nicely. It holds the S, and you can still use the S in another spot, but Seth's going to put down, 80 something points here. He's too good to miss over dare, and over dare hits the triple word score. So hopefully he doesn't make a mistake like you suggested, like overread, but there's no way. And here it comes.
Outread, but not overread, outdare, and overdare. And Seth showing again that command of the word knowledge. Overdare coming down for 89. This is a gut punch for Ed, who feels like he just pulled back into great shape on this game. Seth taking the bingo line Ed hoping to use, blocking the QIS plays Ed thought he was holding on to. This is a huge swing. Ed had to feel 80 to 90% after Jow, and this is the nightmare situation for him. What has he drawn out of the bag? Those 3 face down tiles so pivotal in this game, which is so close.
So he draws into Tingles or Glisten, but he needed a bingo that was going to go from the G, and I'm not seeing that being possible. I don't see anything to the M. It looks like he has missed a bingo, so he's going to have to find a way to scare Seth with a second lane. And he has the S, which really allows him to do that, right? Like he could play something like Tug through the U of Denature, setting up his S, and also going for something up top. But before playing something like Tug as quickly as I suggested it, you have to go through and see, can you hit something in both spots? Especially because you know that Seth is going to be blocking the new lane you open as being a lot scarier than the lane from the G. So what you really want to be doing is scaring Seth with something in sort of the right side of the board while actually going for something from the G if possible.
The unseen pool is really inflexible from Ed's POV. Just 2 vowels, EI plus that Y, which is kind of a vowel, no S's. So yeah, Jared nailed it. You can set yourself up, open up the right side of the board with a play like Tug or Nug or Tag. But again, Jared's right. You have to make sure that Seth can't easily block. You know he's going to easily block, but you have to make sure that you have other threats from the G at the top of the board. So Ed needs to figure out what 1 or 2 tile fishes actually allow him to play or to pull bingos from the G. In these situations, if I'm in Ed's perspective, I do look at those unseen tiles and I try to figure out what's most likely for me to guess or draw. What's more likely for me to draw? It's going to be an L and a T. There's 2 L's and 3 T's. So I start thinking about if I draw an L or a T, which combinations will allow me to bingo from that G? Is Gellings good? Gellings? Maybe I can pull that. Is Geltings good? Geltings? No, it's not. I'd play it right now if I could. But what other kinds of stuff can I pull up there? I'm not seeing much, but I'm not seeing it's impossible. Gin Jelly, Gengeli, is something. Are you seeing other things that might be drawn up at top?
If he plays Nag, he could draw into Glitters. If he drew one of the T's, which is likely, but he would have to draw that R. I don't know if there's another play that would work, but it's sometimes nice, at least if you can find a path. Like you're going to want to do better than like the odds of drawing TR, but you have to start going through the different permutations. And I think what you want to do is assume you're going to draw at least one of the T's.
Yeah, you assume you're going to draw a T in most cases here, or an L maybe,
Right.
but you want to try to figure out the T first. Chat pointing out gill nets is a possibility from the G. That's a nice one. So a fish of just the G or a 2-tile fish, either LG or TG, could pull that one back. I'm looking at plays that Ed can make through the U and D natures like Tug or Lug. Or Nug rather. You're not going to play Lug with Luge available, but if you put the G behind the U, Seth can't do much about it. I guess he can play RIP or something, but it's tough to come up with a constructive block from Seth's perspective. I don't know. I don't think you play through the A. I think you play through the U and D natures, right?
Yeah, because then, like, I mean, Lug could only go there just because the L doesn't go beneath the I, but I think you would try and go a bit lower just to make it a bit harder, because if you play the G above, then Seth could put the I below. Although if he puts the I below and goes to the right, like let's say you play nag above, IN and NAG, and Seth tries to block, then it opens a new lane, right? Like if he plays tip or something, then you can bingo down from the P. So I actually think playing it above might work out sometimes, although IN would set up his K, and then knit, KNIT might be enough to kill any chances. So these are tough positions. Gill nets that the chat came up with looks great because we mentioned the L and the T are the tiles that are duplicated, and in the T's case, triplicated. So if he can find gill nets as a potential, I think that's what he has to be fishing for.
There are also bingos that can be drawn through the disconnected OA on this board. It looked ridiculous at first, but I'm actually seeing some options here. So I wonder if there's something he can look to draw there. Pilotages, Pilotages, pinotages, pinotages are options. So like, I think you actually bingo a little bit more. Well, depending on the play you make, you might bingo a little more than you think here. Big turn in any case. I wonder, plays through the A or through the U take away the nines through OA, but I wonder how big a concern those are here.
Well, those plays score a lot. If you could set up a fish and those plays stay open, that would be a really sneaky lane to get Seth. But because I don't think Seth is going to be thinking about that lane when he's looking where to block, right? He'll be looking at the new lane you open and the G as the main contenders. So if you can be like, what would he have to hit here? He'd have to hit the P though, right?
You'd have to hit the P to draw pinotages or pilotages, and I just feel like if you play one tile and leave that open, Seth plays something like Petty or Kitty through this blank T very often. This is another idea from Ed. I've got one G to bingo from. Now I'm going to put another one there. And hey, Gil Nets is very much in play. The E is not on Seth's rack. And super blurry for me. I have to wait until the delay. Did he draw it?
No, he drew an extra T instead of an extra L. So he got really close, but he didn't quite hit it.
Didn't quite hit it, but drawing the E gives him some extra life in this game. I don't know. Seth's likely to empty the bag here, but Seth has to see that Gil Nets is out there. Seth's got to be very worried right now, but with the double G setup, there's nothing he can do. If Gil Nets is home, Seth loses, and otherwise he just needs to make sure he wins.
Yeah, and you don't want to give Ed another shot to fish for it because there's two spots. So I think Seth has to empty here, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's almost definitely what he needs to do. Bingo and pray. Quackle doesn't want him to bingo or to empty the bag here, but Quackle's also nuts. So
And
yeah,
Kip that Seth plays is perfect because it scores so nicely. And now Ed is going to have to take some time and make sure there's no bingo he's missing. I think now is when some players start finding that OA spot that you mentioned, when maybe they should have looked for it a few minutes before. But if you're saying the computer hasn't found a bingo, this is going to be a win for Seth to extend his lead in an already very competitive field. He'll be going up to 10-2.
What a start for Seth Lipkin. And again, nobody can be upset about this. Seth's just a great guy. He's been playing at such a high level for so long. Hats off to you, Seth. Congrats.
Yeah, this has been a really exciting game. I'm here for 2 more today and another 3 tomorrow afternoon. So if this game is any omen for what's to come, I am very excited.
Yeah, this has been great. We've been just so fortunate pretty much all event long, just getting good game after good game, suspense until the last or second to last turn, and nearly all of them. So those of you smart enough to tune in and watch Scrabble with us, yeah, you've been in for a treat. This has been great.
And now Seth will take some time. Spread does matter. He's got a great spread to begin with, but why not add to that as much as you can? So we'll see him shuffle the tiles here. I see Zudi, maybe you could extend from the zoo. The Y looks nice beneath OBE for obey, but I don't think you can extend from there, so you're probably not going to play it there. He knows that Ed has LIN, so that's going to go out. Liney to the Y and Hoodie, Lim through the M and Muni. So Seth just needs to get as many points as he can here, I think.
Yeah, Zuti is his best sequence. Ed's going out, so just score as much as you can. Zuti is going to do exactly that. That's Seth's optimal end game here. You got the 6 minutes. Go ahead and use it. Figure this one out.
So I don't consider myself a good endgame player, but in this simple one, I guess I did find it. We'll see if Seth is also able to find it. He hasn't set it up yet, so the extensions are tough to see. Players normally look to go through letters. Right now, it looks like he did find the OA disconnected pathway to form Royal, which would also be a very nice find. And we'll see if he's able to find Zudi. Just a couple more spread points. You never know if that's going to be the difference.
How about Seth overcoming a double blanking and winning this game anyway? I'm not going to do my soapbox thing where I complain about how much people complain about blank counts, but Seth putting on a clinic on how to overcome that, how to fight back, how to win the game anyway. It took a nice pull of over dare, but Seth kept himself alive, didn't throw in the towel after seeing the second blank come down and start shaking his head. Stayed optimistic, got another W here.
And the reason not to count blanks is because drawing into baby bingos, as Seth did, I think 3 times in this game, and baby bingos, for people who don't know, are just bingos, which is a play that uses all 7 of your tiles with the common letters that these top players are just so familiar with. He drew into D-Train, he drew into ovaries, he drew into over dare. So don't stop and just start counting blanks. There's way more to drawing than just how many blanks you get.
There's way more to it. At baby bingos for sure. I think any player rated over about 1,200 finds D-Train, and pretty much anybody rated over 1,200 also finds ovaries. But over dare, you've got to do that one right. You saw me mess it up. I said overread, and that would have been the word in this situation I was most confident on, and the word I think I would have played and would have lost a turn. You never know what word is going to win or lose you a game. You need to be as prepared as possible, and Seth's showing that preparation, finding the correct bingo on that turn and converting.
And now we found the correct endgame sequence by finding Zudi. So really good play by Seth here. And you can see the smiles from both players. Love to see it. Both players are off to a great start. Seth will be in first place. Ed will still be very much in contention. And in our next game, we have 2 very exciting competitors, 2 of the younger players in the field, but by no means new to the game, Mac Meller versus Joey Krafchick. So lots of good Scrabble to come here as Ed ends the game with Liney.
Yeah, let's cut to overhead mic and see if we get a post-mortem on this roller coaster of a game.
Yeah, a whole bunch of nothing. R, L, L, T, minus 20. So I get 394 with the penalty.
Yes.
And 460.
Yes.
Nice job, man.
Nice.
That was I drew very well on that draw. I had error and I needed consonants. Wow. I just had to. If you watch me on stream, I'm like, I couldn't hear. I'm just like, please God, but it's the thing with the E is that either you bingo or you can't block in a close game. You can't just block because you lose 4 points. This is brilliant. This is so nice because it's the same one. And I just realized you just stopped me in my tracks. I was like, nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do. You have it. No play I make is worth talking about. So I might as well score some points. That's right. That's all I can do. And so that was brilliant.
I was trying to figure out the best. I had a few options to fish, and I was trying to look at the pool and what I might draw, but I couldn't.
I suppose in retrospect, maybe. Well, so I was scared about glitter. So as soon as if you notice that, wanted to draw as soon as possible. As soon as I drew the eye, I was like, okay, I think I'm okay. Mm-hmm. You might have had others, but from my perspective, glitters was the one that I saw. I guess we're maybe on camera. But in retrospect, given the lack, so you had Lynn. So you aren't really too bad on vowels. I was thinking, I don't know, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. There are a lot of tees unseen to me, and
Yes.
I knew I was going to draw one, so I was just trying to think, do I want 2 tees on my last rack? I decided to, because I did see some possibilities, but it was tough. This
Well,
last.
right, because if you put a T here, right, and I have to double check because I'm like, oh, I think he has glitters, but I have 2 T's. Is that possible? And I look on the board and it's like, yeah. There are only these 2. I don't know if you noticed, but I mistracked like 40 tiles in,
Really?
and I had to retrack.
Oh, wow.
I did pretty fast, and I did it a while ago, and it was right. But I mistracked, and I was like, "There's no way I'm fixing that." And I have time now, so let me do it. And
I didn't even notice.
That's terrifying. I messed up on the canine's turn. After this, I was like, I think I tracked this as an A. So maybe I have too many A's tracked. But I had 4 A's tracked, and there were 5 actual A's on the board. And I'm like, I don't know what I did. Let me start over. I don't know. I still don't know what I did. I think I got BAPs because both the B's or P's were gone. I think it's the B's. Anyway, I don't want to sound like I'm complaining after a lucky draw like that. So
No,
I'm not complaining.
But yeah, I definitely want to look at this one because I probably had something better with this bingo.
Denature under.
And maybe this I could have done better.
You could have done under 8, which at least takes out, but I can't put an S on it, under 8.
Yeah, I was trying. I don't know what letter goes here. But I was just as soon as I was just looking for a consonant to go here.
UNDE. Oh yeah. I see your point. On that turn, I happened to have urbanism minus the A. I had urbanism, and and I put it on the rack for the camera. I have this.
Oh.
I actually found the 9 with for ovaries. I found the 9 with this, which is voracious. But it doesn't play. Oh wow! But that was good practice. Didn't do anything. I saw him play in 9s, and I was fucking around with. I was like, do I do nicks or racks? I hadn't looked here, and I guess this is. So what is this? This is 24, 25, 26, 36, 37, 45. Oh, it's almost the same. And this actually does give the possibility that you can SE something new, which is 40. So maybe, but you could have the I. You could have the I and something, an N or something. You're gonna get choked by this thing. Right. So to confirm, 60 to 94.
Yes.
All right, so to confirm, 60 to 94, the final there, 460 to 394, as Ed suffers a 10-second time penalty on this one. But a back and forwards game, Ed had to feel like he had a defeat grasped from the jaws of victory as the killer over dare for 89 turned this one in Seth's favor. It takes a lot of skill to be in first place 12 rounds through a North American championship, but it also takes a little bit of fortune, and Seth, a little bit of good fortune, finding a great draw, but also fighting back, overcoming a double blanking from a very solid player in Ed de Guzman. Seth, at 10-2, hangs on to his lead atop this NWL field. The other player who is at 9-2 coming into this round is the player we'll show you next, as Jared teased. Mac Miller and Joey Krafchick are going to be here on stream in just a few short minutes. We are going to cut to a break for now, but don't go anywhere. 2 more games from today's action in South Bend, Indiana, coming your way in just a moment. See you soon.